warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from age group and we will present about the imagery in poetry. Will be represented by me, Ahmad Huzaimi, and Zulkifli Kami and Lukman.
The first one about definition of imagery. Imagery is language that used by poets, novelists to create image in the mind of the readers. And in simple way, we can say the imagery is one of way to represent the action, the object, and the idea in poem which formed by human sense, such as sight, smell, taste, hear, and touch.
Okay, everyone, I will explain about several types of imagery. First is visual. Visual imagery appeals to the sense of sight. It describes what a scene or character looks like. Example: the night was black as ever, with bright stars lit up the sky in beautiful and varied constellations, which were sprinkled across the astronomical landscape. The second is auditory. Auditory imagery describes specific sounds that are happening within the story. Example: silence was broken by the peal of piano keys as Shannon began practicing her concert. The third is olfactory imagery. In this form of poetic imagery, the poet appeals to the reader's sense of smell by describing something the speaker of the poem inhales. Example: if you walk over through a bakery in the morning, you can smell the scent of freshly baked bread. The fourth is gustatory imagery. In this form of poetic imagery, the poet appeals to the reader's sense of taste by describing something the speaker or narrator of the poem tastes. Example: the candy melted in her mouth and swirl of bittersweet chocolate and slightly sweet but salty caramel blended together on her tongue. The fifth is tactile. In this form of poetic imagery, the poet appeals to the reader's sense of touch by describing something the speaker of the poem feels on their body. Example: Sarah placed her bare hand on the cold snow. It was wet at first, then the frigid cold set in like a thousand needles, like breaking her palm at once. The last two types of imagery extend beyond the five senses. Kinetic deals with the movement or action of object or people. Example: the bird flapped their wings in excitement. The promise of food so close. They sprung out of the tree one by one, soaring through the branch and swooping down low the pile of berries beneath the tree. The flapping of the wings and the description of the way birds fly down toward the ground helps the reader create an accurate visual image of the scene. The last is organic. In this form of poetic imagery, the poet communicates internal sensations such as fatigue, hunger, and thirst, as well as internal emotions such as fear, love, and despair. Example: so was I once myself a swinger of brains, and so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary to consideration, and life is too much like a peddler's wood. It described feeling of the fatigue and aimlessness and a longing to return to the purposeful play of youth.
Example of imagery in the poem. The first is visual images. For example, it was dark and dim in the forest. The words dark and dim are visual images. The second is sense of hearing or auditory sense. For example, the children were screaming and shouting in the fields. Screaming and shouting appeal to our sense of hearing. The third is smell or olfactory sense. For example, he whiffed the aroma of brewed coffee. Whiff and aroma evoke our sense of smell. The fourth is sense of touch or tactile sense. For example, the girl ran her hands on a soft satin fabric. The idea of soft in this example appeals to our sense of touch. The last one is sense of taste or gustatory sense. For example, the fresh and juicy orange is very cold and sweet. Juicy and sweet, when associated with oranges, have an effect to our sense of taste or gustatory sense.
I think that's all from our group. If there are some mistake, please apologize us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.